Hello. So today I'll be teaching you how to cut a trouser and how to sew a trouser. So I want you to note that we'll be taking trousers consistently. So today I'll teach you how to use freehand cutting for trouser, and I'll also teach you how to use paper pattern for trouser. So today we'll be sewing a palazzo pant trouser. Then over time I'll teach you how to sew a pencil trouser, how to sew a straight trouser, that's a fitted trouser but not too tight on the body, it's just fitted up to the knee then straight down. Then I also teach you how to sew a pencil trouser that will be fitted all the way from the top to the bottom. But today I'll be teaching you how to sew a palazzo pant. A palazzo pant is like a baggy, is you can use it for a baggy pant trouser. So most times it's usually fitted up to the hip, then all the way down is free, and sometimes it's from the waist down is usually flare. So I'll be teaching you like the basic palazzo pants, the way to cut a basic palazzo pant. Then you can actually improvise later on as you get to know how to cut other types of trousers and also familiarize yourself with other cutting methods. So today I'll be teaching you a freehand cut for a palazzo pant trouser. Then after that I'll teach you how to join it and how to sew it. Then I'll teach you pattern drafting for pencil pant trouser and straight pant trouser. Then you can use the same method and knowledge to sew your to join it and sew it on your own. Then subsequently you'll be able to make, like, you can sew a blouse now, so subsequently you can make like two-piece outfits and stuff. So these are the things you'll be needing for your palazzo pant trouser. You'll be needing a pant you'll be needing a fabric to sew the pant trouser, and the fabric you'll be needing is 2 yards or 2.5 yards, depending on how you want it. If you want it to have pockets, you can get like 2.5 yards based on the measurements you usually use. And for my own measurements, I am using a waist. I'm doing a waist 36, hip 44 for my measurements, and the length will be length 45. I use length 45 for my trousers because I like them covering my legs. So, and I'll be using, this is a by 60 material, so I'll be using 2 yards or 2.5 yards, but here is a 4 yard fabric, but I'll most likely be using 2 yards or 2.5 yards from it, so you can get 2.5 yards for your own palazzo pants. Then I'll be using a lining. I'm using a lining because I'm using a light silk fabric to sew it, but if you're using a cotton or a thick crepe fabric, you will not be needing a lining at all. But most times when people want to sew palazzo pants, they use chiffon materials and stuff, so to avoid having that transparent feel or that light feel on the body where you feel like you're almost naked, sometimes you can line it, but it's based on choice. I just like to line it because I feel lined soft fabrics, when they are lined, you're more comfortable in them. Then you need your tape, you need your scissors, you need your chalk, you need your ruler for when you are drawing the lines together, and other basic things to come together as we go into it. So let's get to the table and start cutting. So these are the measurements you'll be needing for your palazzo pant trouser. You need your trouser waist. You need your trouser waist. I don't know if you can see this. You need your trouser waist. That is where you put your trouser. The same way if you want to do a skirt, that we usually measure skirt hip. So where you put your trouser, some people where they put their skirt is usually different from where they put their trouser. But if it's the same place, that's fine also. So you need your trouser waist. That's where you want the trouser to be, either high waisted or low waisted. You need your hip measurement, you need your thigh measurement, and you will need your trouser length measurement. You can refer to the video that I showed you. That was the first video that I sent to you that we treated how to take measurements. There you will see how to take a thigh measurement, how to take trouser length measurement depending on the type of trouser you're sewing. And then I'm sure you by now you know how to take hip measurement. That is the normal regular hip measurement. So you also need your crouch. Now people have different techniques to how to get a crouch measurement while sewing trouser, but for me I usually use, measurements vary based on the crouch that I use. If you're like a size 8 or a size 10, I can use like 11 or 12, 10, 11 or 12 inches for your crouch. But the moment your hip is entering into like size 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, I usually use 13, 14 or 15 inches for the crouch measurement. Let's say for example somebody that is, you want to sew a high waisted trouser for, and their hip measurement is like 42, 43, 44, I will advise that you use 15 inches for their trouser measurement. If you are doing a jumpsuit, I advise you use 15 inches for the crotch for the trousers. Like this one now, I'll be using 15 inches for the crotch of the trousers. But if you doing a normal waisted trousers that won't be high waisted, or not a jumpsuit, just a normal waisted trousers, you can do 13, 14 for the crotch. And please note that getting the crotch right is very, very tantamount for the success of a good trouser, for a trouser that will sit well, for a trouser that the customer will be comfortable while wearing it. If the crotch doesn't sit well, everything about the trouser will feel like it is wrong. And also note that trouser sewing, you have to be very detailed. Any detailing that is missed out can affect the whole outcome of the trouser. So while cutting or sewing a trouser, be very detailed. In short, put as much allowance as possible, because I usually tell people that it's usually okay for a trouser to be big and then it's slim fitted. For you to have issues in alterations in terms of size, like it's too tight or the crotch is too low. If the crotch is too deep, you can actually adjust it. But if the crotch is too high, meaning what, the customer feels choked while wearing the trousers, there will be a problem in amendment, and you might not even get the right measurement right, meaning you have to condemn the whole trouser. So you have to get the crotch right. And also note that getting perfect with trousers is over time. It can take you sewing up to like 5 trousers for 5 different people to actually get it right. Another thing that I usually tell people to notice, if you sew for a particular if you sew a trouser for a particular customer and it comes out perfect, do well to save those measurements for the next time they want to sew, especially noting the crouch, to avoid mistakes in the future. So once you get it right, you get it right. So let's get to cutting our trouser. So for this trouser, I'll be using 15 for the crouch. For the trouser length, like I said earlier, I'll be using 45 because I'm sewing it for myself, and I like using 45 for my trouser measurements. For the thigh, I'll be using, let me measure my thigh, so you can use this opportunity to look at how to measure thighs. This is how to take thigh measurement. So for the thigh, can you see directly under my bum bum, across the, can you see across here, coming to the front? For my thigh here is 29. You can see that even while measuring the thigh, I can still move the tape. So for my thigh here is 29, but because I want the trousers to be free all around my body, I'll be using 30 for my thigh measurement, just because I want my palazzo trousers to be free. But if you want it to be fitted up to the hip side, you can use the main measurement, that's the 29. But I want mine to be free, I can still move around inside it. Like now, this trouser, you will see that I used 28 for the tie when I sewed it, but because I've added weight, you can see that it feels squashed around here. So I'll be using 30 just to have like a perfect free trouser. For the hip, my hip is 44 inches, so that's what I'll be using for the hip. Then my trouser waist, because it's high waisted trouser, I want it to be on my waist where I can wear it with a shirt and not tucking. And when I want to tuck in it with a t-shirt or with a normal shirt, it will still look nice on me because it's high waisted. So I'll be using 36 inches for the high waist, because this is where the trouser will be, and my measurement around here is 36. So let's get to cutting the trouser. So this is it. Here's our fabric, and it's time to cut our palazzo trouser. So from here to here is the thigh measurement divided by 2. Remember I said my thigh is 30 inches. So 30 divided by 2, that's 15. So if you are cutting one leg of the trouser, you do hip measurement divided by 4, thigh measurement divided by 2. Every other measurement is divided by 4, aside the length measurement and the thigh measurement. The thigh measurement is usually divided by 2, because for the thigh we measured one leg, and sewing one leg of the trouser we will be using thigh measurement divided by 2. That's for the front and for the back. So now we have gotten the length of our we have gotten the fabric, we have folded the fabric. Thigh measurements divided by 2, that's 15, plus 2 inches allowance, that's 1 inch allowance on the side, another inch allowance here. Please also note that while cutting trouser, allowance is on both sides. The allowance is usually on both sides. You put allowance here and you put allowance here, because you are joining on both sides for a trouser. So let's cut. Firstly, you mark the trouser length. So my trouser length is 45. So I'll be doing 45 with 2 inches extra, making 47. The 2 inches is the sewing allowance at the length side. So I'll measure 45 with 2 inches extra. So I'm marking the length 47 inches. That's 45 with 2 inches for sewing allowance at the length. Remember I said you need a ruler. So after measuring the length of the trouser, the next thing I'll do is I'll mark the hip. The hip measurement, my hip line, I'll be using 9 inches because it's an high waisted. Remember I said hip line, just like we talked about while treating pencil and straight skirts, the hip line is usually based on your size. So for this, I'll be using 9 inches for the hip line because my hip is hip 44, and at the same time it's an high waisted skirt. So I'll mark 9 inches from that point where I mark the length. I'll also mark 9 inches down. So after marking 9 inches for the hip line, the next thing I will mark is the crouch. It's on the point where I mark the crouch that I will mark the thigh. So for this pant trouser, my crouch measurement is 15 inches. So it's on this point where I measured my crouch 15 inches that I will measure the thigh measurements. So let's just say the circumference of your crotch is your thigh, and the length of your thigh is your crotch. Waist to crotch, the points from the waist to the crotch, that is where you measure your thigh. So after that, we have the length, we have the hip line, and we have the crotch length where we are going to measure our thigh. So the next thing for you to do is you measure. So the first thing we will do is we'll mark the crouch. We'll join the crouch and we'll join the waist and the crouch together. So firstly, you mark 1 inch out here. That's from the end of the folding. You mark 1 inch. Then you bring down 1 inch down to form an L shape. You bring the 1 inch down to form an L shape at the crouch. Can you see? So after you have done that, remember that we've marked 15 inches here. That's on the thigh, the crouch length where we are measuring the thigh. 1 inch out, 15 inches for the thigh, then another 1 inch here. So if we are going to mark the hip, we're going to start from here so that the hip and the thigh, that's the crouch length, the hip and the thigh, they are on the same side. So this is what we will do. We'll measure the hip. This is 1 inch for allowance first. Then we'll measure the hip 11 inches. We've measured the hip 11 inches. 1 inch for joining in front. We'll add it again. Then we bring it down here. We'll bring it down here. So this is what we are cutting out. We are still going to cut all this out. Then after we've done that, then this will be the real line for the crouch measurement. Let me cut it out so you have a better understanding while viewing. We're not done yet with the cutting. I just want to cut it out so you have a better understanding while viewing. So from here, can you see we didn't have any business with this anymore? So from here, can you see? You can make it a bit lower. So that's it. So we already have the. So next thing we will do is this. So the next thing we'll do is this. We'll come to this point. Remember we marked the hip 1 inch, hip measurement, sewing allowance. Then the hip and the thigh, they are on the same frequency like this. This place there is an extra here for the joining of the crouch, but here, because if you don't do it that way, after the hip, the thigh will slant out. So this is why we make sure the hip and the thigh, they are on the same length and distance here. So for the waist, this is what we'll do to create the whole shape of the trouser. We'll mark 1 inch here for joining of the waist in front. Then after that, we'll mark 9 inches. After marking 9 inches, we'll mark 1 inch for that allowance, 1 inch for sewing allowance, and then we bring it down to where the hip is, and then we also cut out. So because it's a palazzo pant and there's no shaping, you just cut all the way straight down. Now we have our palazzo pant, but it cannot end here. We still have to deal with this excess here so that we know the demarcation of the trouser. Now this is what we'll do for a palazzo pant. I'll come here and I'll take in 1.5 inches. After taking 1.5 inches, I'll come here and do a slant marking like this. After I do a slant marking that is up to 1 inch, that's a slant marking that is up to 1 inch at the tip of the trouser, I'll bring it down like this to meet that 1.5 marking, and then I'll cut out. So now, this is the front of our palazzo trouser. This is the front of the palazzo trouser. If I open it, you'll see that it's in two distinct, but I don't want to open it because I still need it to be accurately together, because this is what I'll use to cut the back. So now it's time to cut the back. You use the front to cut the back. The front and the back, they are going to be exactly the same structure. There will be no zip allowance because for trousers like this, the zip will be at the side. It's going to be a side zip. So now that it has been placed and we're about to cut out the front, which is exactly like the back, one thing you will do is you add extra 1 inch at the center here, extra 1 inch at the center here. So extra 1 inch at the center of the trouser, that's at the center here, extra 1 inch above for the back, and then you slant it down. This extra 1 inch is for sitting. There's sometimes you wear trousers and then you are sitting, and then it feels like the trouser is going down at the back. But if there's an extra 1 inch, even if the trouser goes down, your underwear and stuffs, they are not showing. There are some people that they might even want it to be 1.5 or 2 inches higher, but 1 inch is okay for a high-waisted pant trouser. So you cut out. This is the only thing that makes the back and the front different. Every other thing is the same. So just so you don't mix up the front and the back while sewing, you can notch the back, then you cut out. So here it is, a basic trouser, a basic palazzo trouser block. So you can try yours on your own. I'd like you to try the cutting period for the cutting phase first. So I want you to try this on your own and send me an exact video of this, of you cutting your trouser on your own like this. So you can try first on paper, send me a video, then you try again on fabric, then you send me a video, because I like to see that you get the cutting phase first and you understand this video that I sent you, because I believe that the steps are quite much and I want you to be sure that you fully understand it. Then I'll now send you a full video of the sewing proper, and then we go. The trousers are going to take a much of time depending on how early you catch up. So just try this, go over this, try it out, send me a video, then we'll proceed from there.